Bear cub wedged in a soda-vending dispenser slot. What this baby did was shocking. Let us know where you're watching from. If you love my content, consider supporting it with a super thanks. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe. It'll help us to remain in touch with amazing people like you. The old vending machine stood crooked against the weathered brick wall of Riverside Park, its red paint peeling like dried blood in the afternoon heat. The machine hummed with a broken rhythm, occasionally hiccuping as if gasping for air. Empty soda cans littered the ground around it, their metallic surfaces catching the sunlight that filtered through the oak trees above. 23-year-old Maya Chen pushed her baby stroller along the cracked concrete path, her 6-month-old daughter Lily gurgling happily as they walked. The park was unusually quiet for a Saturday afternoon. Only a few scattered families occupied the distant picnic tables, their voices carried away by the gentle breeze that rustled the leaves overhead. Maya paused near a wooden bench, checking her phone for messages from her husband. The cell service was weak here, showing only one bar. She frowned, tucking the phone back into her purse. The isolation of this particular corner of the park had always made her slightly uncomfortable, but Lily loved watching the squirrels that frequently scampered near the old vending machine. A soft whimpering sound drifted from somewhere nearby. Maya looked up, scanning the area. The sound came again, more urgent this time. It was not quite a cry, not quite a whine, but something in between that made her chest tighten with concern. "Did you hear that, sweetheart?" she whispered to Lily, who had stopped her happy babbling and was now listening intently, her small head tilted toward the sound. The noise grew louder, more desperate. It seemed to be coming from the direction of the vending machine. Maya pushed the stroller closer, her footsteps careful on the uneven pavement. As they approached, she could see that something was very wrong. Wedged halfway into the narrow dispensing slot at the bottom of the machine was a small, furry form. At first, Maya thought it might be a large cat or a small dog, but as she got closer, her breath caught in her throat. The distinctive brown fur, the small rounded ears, the tiny paws frantically scratching against the metal. This was a bear cub. The baby bear was stuck. Its head and front shoulders had somehow squeezed through the dispensing slot, but its body was too wide to follow. The cub's rear legs kicked helplessly in the air, its muffled cries growing more panicked with each passing second. Maya's hands trembled as she gripped the stroller handle. Her first instinct was to run, to get herself and Lily as far away as possible. Where there was a cub, there had to be a mother bear nearby. But as she watched the small creature struggle, something deep inside her chest began to ache. The cub's movements were becoming weaker. Its paws, which had been scratching frantically against the metal, now moved more slowly. The whimpering sounds were growing fainter, more strained. Lily made a soft cooing sound, her tiny hand reaching toward the trapped animal. Maya looked down at her daughter, seeing an expression she had never witnessed before. The baby's usual bright curiosity had been replaced by something that looked almost like understanding, like concern. "We can't just leave it," Maya whispered, though she was not sure if she was talking to Lily or to herself. The cub's breathing was becoming labored. Maya could see its small rib cage expanding and contracting rapidly as it struggled for air in the confined space. The metal edges of the dispensing slot were cutting into its fur, and she could see small spots of blood beginning to appear. Maya pulled out her phone again, desperate to call for help, but the single bar of service had disappeared entirely. The nearest ranger station was at least a 20-minute drive away, and she had no idea how to contact them even if she could get through. The cub's struggles were becoming more frantic again, as if it sensed that time was running out. Its small body convulsed as it tried to back out of the slot, but the angle was all wrong. The more it struggled, the more firmly it became wedged. Lily began to fuss in her stroller, her small fists clenched as she watched the cub's distress. The baby's breathing had changed too, becoming quick and shallow, mirroring the panic of the trapped animal. Maya knelt beside the stroller, her mind racing. She had read somewhere that bear cubs could die from stress alone, even if they were not physically injured. The terror of being trapped, unable to move or escape, could literally cause their hearts to stop. "What do we do, baby?" she whispered to Lily. "What do we do?" As if in response, Lily reached out her small hand again, this time making a soft musical sound that was neither a cry nor a laugh, but something entirely new. The sound seemed to cut through the afternoon air, clear and pure. The cub's struggles stopped. For a moment everything was silent except for the broken humming of the vending machine and the distant rustle of leaves. Then, slowly, the cub turned its head as much as it could within the confined space, seeming to look directly at Lily. Maya held her breath. The connection between her daughter and the trapped animal was unmistakable, electric in its intensity. She could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on her shoulders, the knowledge that whatever happened next would change everything. The afternoon sun shifted behind the clouds, casting long shadows across the park. In the distance, Maya thought she heard the sound of heavy footsteps moving through the underbrush, getting closer with each passing second. The footsteps stopped. Maya's heart hammered against her ribs as she strained to listen, but all she could hear was the labored breathing of the trapped cub and the gentle whir of the vending machine's compressor. The silence stretched on, thick and oppressive, like the calm before a storm. Lily made that strange musical sound again, softer this time. Almost like a lullaby, the cub responded immediately, its small body relaxing slightly within the metal confines. Maya watched in amazement as the baby bear's frantic scratching slowed to gentle movements, as if Lily's voice had somehow reached through its panic and fear. "How are you doing that?" Maya whispered, looking down at her daughter with new eyes. Lily's face held an expression of deep concentration, her bright blue eyes fixed on the trapped animal with an intensity that seemed far beyond her 6 months of life. The sound of breaking branches echoed from the tree line, much closer now. Maya's blood ran cold as she realized what was approaching. The mother bear had found them. Her mouth went dry as she calculated the distance to her car, too far to run with a stroller, especially on the uneven park paths. But something strange was happening. The cub, which should have been calling out desperately for its mother, remained quiet. Instead, it seemed to be listening to Lily's soft sounds, its breathing gradually becoming more regular and calm. Maya crouched down beside the vending machine, her hands shaking as she examined the trapped animal more closely. The cub was wedged in tight, but she could see that its struggles had actually made the situation worse. The metal edges of the dispensing slot had been bent slightly inward by the cub's frantic movements, creating a tighter grip around its small body. "If you could just stop moving," she whispered to the cub, "maybe I could try to bend these edges back." As if understanding her words, the cub went completely still. Its dark eyes, visible through the gap, seemed to focus on Maya with an intelligence that made her breath catch. This was not the vacant stare of a panicked animal. This was the look of a creature that was thinking, calculating, trusting. Maya reached into her purse and pulled out her car keys, selecting the thickest one. She had no idea if this would work, but she had to try something. The metal of the vending machine was old and soft from years of weather exposure. If she could just create a little more space. The first attempt was clumsy. The key slipped against the smooth metal, leaving only a small scratch. The cub flinched at the scraping sound but remained still, its trust in Maya apparently unshaken. Lily continued her soft vocalizations, a constant stream of gentle sounds that seemed to weave a spell of calm over the entire scene. On the second try, Maya managed to wedge the key between the bent metal and the cub's fur. She applied gentle pressure, working slowly to avoid injuring the animal. The metal groaned softly as it began to give way, creating just a fraction more space. The heavy footsteps resumed, closer now. Maya could hear the distinctive sound of large paws moving through the dry leaves and fallen branches. Her hands trembled as she worked, but she forced herself to stay focused. The cub's life depended on her steadiness now. A low growl rumbled through the trees, deep and threatening. Maya's entire body went cold with fear, but she did not stop working. The key was making progress, slowly bending the metal back into a more manageable shape. The cub helped by staying perfectly still, its trust absolute. "Almost there," Maya whispered, though she was not sure if she was talking to the cub, to Lily, or to herself. "Just a little more." The sound of approaching danger grew louder, but something unexpected was happening. Mixed with the heavy footsteps and occasional growls, Maya began to hear other sounds. Smaller footsteps, multiple sets of them, moving through the underbrush with a different rhythm, and Lily's musical sounds suddenly changed, becoming more complex, more varied. It was as if she was having a conversation with someone Maya could not see. The baby's eyes remained fixed on the trapped cub, but her vocalizations seemed to be directed elsewhere, toward the sounds coming from the forest. The cub responded to Lily's new sounds by making small chirping noises of its own, barely audible but clearly directed toward the approaching footsteps. Maya realized with growing amazement that some kind of communication was happening here, something beyond her understanding but undeniably real. With a final, careful twist of the key, Maya managed to create just enough space. The metal edges were no longer cutting into the cub's fur, and there was room for the small animal to maneuver. But instead of immediately trying to back out, the cub remained motionless, as if waiting for something. The footsteps were very close now. Maya could hear breathing, could almost feel the presence of the large animal moving through the trees just beyond her line of sight. Her instincts screamed at her to grab Lily and run, but something kept her frozen in place. Then she saw them. 3 more bear cubs emerged from the tree line, moving in single file toward the vending machine. They were slightly larger than the trapped cub, but still clearly juveniles. Their movements were purposeful, deliberate, as if they were following some kind of plan. Behind them came the mother bear, massive and powerful, her fur gleaming in the dappled sunlight. But there was something wrong with the scene. The mother bear was not charging toward her trapped offspring in a frenzy of protective rage. Instead, she was moving slowly, carefully, her attention divided between Maya and something else entirely. Following the mother bear were 2 more adult bears, slightly smaller but no less intimidating. Maya's mind struggled to process what she was seeing. Bears were generally solitary creatures, especially outside of mating season. A group this large was almost unheard of. The 3 free cubs approached the vending machine and arranged themselves in a semicircle around it. The trapped cub finally began to move, but not in the panicked thrashing Maya had expected. Instead, it worked slowly and methodically, using the extra space Maya had created to carefully extract itself from the metal slot. Lily's vocalizations continued, now accompanied by similar sounds from all 4 cubs. The adults watched silently, their massive heads turning occasionally toward Maya and her daughter, but showing no signs of aggression. As the trapped cub finally freed its head and shoulders from the vending machine, Maya got her first clear look at the small animal. Its fur was matted with sticky soda residue, and there were small cuts where the metal had pressed into its skin, but its eyes were bright and alert. Most remarkably, those eyes seemed to hold an expression of gratitude as they looked first at Maya, then at Lily. The cub took several unsteady steps toward the stroller, its siblings moving aside to create a path. Maya's every instinct told her to pull Lily away, to put distance between her baby and the wild animals, but something about the scene held her motionless. The rescued cub stopped just inches from the stroller and made a series of soft chirping sounds. Lily responded immediately, reaching out with both small hands toward the bear. Maya's heart stopped as she realized her daughter was trying to touch the wild animal. But before Lily's hands could make contact, something extraordinary happened. The mother bear moved forward, placing herself between the cub and the stroller. But instead of showing aggression, she lowered her massive head until she was at eye level with Lily. The two creatures, the 6-month-old human baby and the adult black bear, looked directly at each other for a long moment. Maya held her breath, afraid that any movement might shatter whatever spell was keeping this encounter peaceful. Then Lily did something that made Maya's eyes fill with tears. The baby reached out and gently touched the bear's nose with one tiny finger. The contact lasted only a second, but in that moment Maya felt as if she was witnessing something sacred, something that would change all of them forever. The mother bear pulled back slowly, making a sound that was almost like a purr. She turned to her rescued cub and nuzzled it gently, checking for injuries. The other cubs gathered around their sibling, their reunion quiet but intense. Maya realized that her face was wet with tears. The emotion of the moment was overwhelming. The relief of seeing the cub freed, the terror and wonder of the encounter with the mother bear, and something else, something deeper that she could not quite name. The bear family began to move away from the vending machine, but they did not head immediately back into the forest. Instead, they arranged themselves in a loose circle around Maya and Lily, as if saying goodbye. Each of the cubs approached the stroller in turn, making soft sounds that Lily answered with her own musical vocalizations. As the last cub rejoined its family, the mother bear looked at Maya one final time. In that look, Maya saw something that took her breath away: recognition, understanding, and what could only be described as gratitude. The massive creature dipped her head slightly, a gesture so human-like that Maya gasped. Then they were gone, melting back into the forest as silently as they had appeared. Maya stood alone beside the old vending machine, Lily gurgling contentedly in her stroller, and wondered if she had just imagined the entire encounter. But the evidence was still there: the bent metal of the dispensing slot, the sticky paw prints on the concrete, and the lingering scent of wild fur and forest leaves. Most of all, there was the change in Lily, who continued to make those new musical sounds, as if she had learned a new language and was reluctant to stop speaking it. Maya sank onto the nearby bench, her legs suddenly too weak to hold her. The enormity of what had just happened was beginning to sink in. She had helped free a trapped bear cub, had been surrounded by a family of wild bears, and had somehow lived to tell about it. More than that, her infant daughter had communicated with wild animals in a way that seemed to transcend the normal boundaries between species. As the afternoon light began to fade, Maya found herself looking toward the forest with new eyes. Somewhere in those trees was a family that would remember this day just as she would. A family that had trusted her with something precious, and had repaid that trust with an experience that would live in her heart forever. But even as she savored the memory, Maya could not shake the feeling that this was not the end of the story. The look in the mother bear's eyes had held more than gratitude. It had held a promise, or perhaps a warning. Something told her that her encounter with the bear family was not a once-in-a-lifetime event, but the beginning of something much larger and more complex. Lily continued to babble in her new language, her small hands gesturing toward the forest, as if she was trying to tell Maya something important. The baby's eyes held a wisdom that seemed impossible for someone so young, and Maya wondered if her daughter had gained something more than just a remarkable experience. As they prepared to leave the park, Maya noticed something that made her pause. Scattered around the base of the vending machine were small stones, arranged in what looked almost like a pattern. They had not been there when she arrived, she was certain of that. The bears must have left them, but why? Maya knelt down to examine the stones more closely, careful not to disturb their arrangement. There were 12 of them in total, each about the size of a marble, smooth and worn as if they had been handled many times. They were arranged in 3 groups of 4, forming what looked like a triangle around the vending machine. Lily became excited as Maya crouched near the stones, her small hands reaching toward them with the same intensity she had shown toward the bears. When Maya moved closer to one of the stone groups, Lily made those musical sounds again, but this time they seemed more urgent, almost like she was trying to warn Maya about something. "What is it, sweetheart?" Maya whispered, looking from the stones to her daughter's animated face. "What are you trying to tell me?" As if in response to Maya's question, one of the stones began to emit a faint, barely visible glow. Maya blinked hard, certain she was imagining things, but the glow remained. A soft, pulsing light that seemed to come from deep within the stone itself. Maya's hands trembled as she reached toward the glowing stone, but before she could touch it, Lily's vocalizations became almost frantic. The baby was clearly distressed, her small body straining against the stroller straps as she tried to reach the stones herself. Okay, Maya murmured, pulling her hand back. "I won't touch them." The moment Maya withdrew her hand, the stone's glow faded, and Lily calmed down. But now Maya could see that all 12 stones had a faint luminescence to them, so subtle that it was only visible in the growing shadows of late afternoon. Maya stood up, her mind reeling with questions. What kind of stones were these? How could they glow without any apparent power source? And why had the bears left them here? More importantly, how did Lily seem to know so much about them? As she pondered these questions, Maya became aware of a new sound. Footsteps approaching along the park path. Human footsteps this time, moving with purpose toward their location. Maya looked up to see an elderly man walking toward them, his weathered face creased with what looked like concern. The man was tall and lean, with silver hair that caught the fading sunlight, and eyes that seemed to hold depths of knowledge. He wore simple clothes, faded jeans and a flannel shirt, but there was something about his bearing that suggested he was someone important, someone who commanded respect. "Excuse me," the man called out as he drew closer. "I couldn't help but notice you've been here for quite some time. Is everything all right?" Maya felt a surge of protective instinct, stepping closer to Lily's stroller. After the incredible experience with the bears, she was not sure she was ready to trust any stranger, no matter how harmless he appeared. "We're fine," she replied carefully, "just enjoying the park." The man's eyes moved to the stones arranged around the vending machine, and Maya saw his expression change. The polite concern was replaced by something much more intense: surprise, recognition, and what might have been fear. "Those stones," he said quietly, his voice barely above a whisper. "Where did they come from?" Maya's heart began to race. This man knew something about the stones, something that had shaken him deeply. I found them like that," she said, which was technically true. The man approached the stone arrangement slowly, his movements careful and deliberate. When he was about 10 feet away, he stopped abruptly, as if he had hit an invisible wall. His face had gone pale, and Maya could see beads of sweat forming on his forehead despite the cool afternoon air. "My name is Doctor." "Samuel Reeves," he said, his voice strained. "I've been studying phenomena like this for over 30 years. These stones, they're not from around here." "What do you mean?" Maya asked, though part of her was afraid to hear the answer. Dr. Reeves pulled a small device from his pocket, something that looked like a cross between a compass and a smartphone. The screen showed readings that meant nothing to Maya, but Dr. Reeves's face grew even paler as he watched the numbers. "The electromagnetic readings around these stones are off the charts," he explained. "They're generating some kind of field that I've only seen in one other place, a remote research facility in Alaska, where we've been monitoring unusual animal behavior for the past decade." Lily had been quiet during this exchange, but now she began to make those musical sounds again. Dr. Reeves's head snapped toward the stroller, his eyes widening with amazement. "That sound," he breathed. "I've heard it before. The animals at our facility make the same vocalizations when they're near the stones we found there." Maya's grip on the stroller handle tightened. "What kind of animals?" "Bears, primarily," Dr. Reeves replied. "But also wolves, elk, even birds. They all seem to be drawn to the stones, and they all develop the ability to make sounds we've never heard before. Sounds that seem to have meaning, like a language." The pieces of the puzzle were starting to come together in Maya's mind, forming a picture that was both wondrous and terrifying. The bear family's unusual behavior, Lily's new vocalizations, the mysterious stones, they were all connected somehow. "Dr. Reeves," Maya said slowly, "what exactly do you think these stones are?" The old scientist ran a hand through his silver hair, looking suddenly very tired. "Honestly, I think they're some kind of communication device, but not made by any technology we understand. The mineral composition is unlike anything on Earth. We've had samples analyzed by the best laboratories in the country, and they all come back with the same result: unknown elements, arranged in structures that shouldn't be stable according to our understanding of physics." Lily's sounds became more complex, almost as if she was responding to Dr. Reeves' explanation. The baby's eyes were bright with an intelligence that seemed far beyond her age, and Maya found herself wondering if her daughter understood more than anyone realized. "There's something else, Doctor," Reeves continued, glancing nervously at the stones. "The animals that spend time near these objects, they change. Not just their vocalizations, but their behavior, their intelligence. Some of them seem to develop problem-solving abilities that are far beyond what we've ever documented in wild animals." Maya thought about the coordinated way the bear family had approached the vending machine, the purposeful arrangement they had formed around her and Lily, the almost human-like gesture of gratitude from the mother bear. "The bears I encountered today," she said quietly, "they were different. Smarter, like they were thinking and planning." Dr. Reeves nodded grimly. "That's exactly what we've observed. The question is, what's causing it? And more importantly, what does it mean for the animals, and for us?" As if summoned by his words, a new sound echoed from the forest. A howl that was unlike anything Maya had ever heard. It was not the call of a wolf or a coyote, but something entirely new, haunting and beautiful, and somehow intelligent. The howl was answered by another, then another, until the forest around them rang with a chorus of voices that seemed to carry meaning beyond their wild beauty. Lily responded immediately, her musical vocalizations joining the forest chorus in perfect harmony. Dr. Reeves's face went white. "This is not good," he muttered, his fingers flying over his device. "The readings are spiking. Something is happening." The glow from the stones was becoming more visible now, pulsing in rhythm with the calls from the forest. Maya could feel something in the air around them, a tension like the moment before lightning strikes. "We need to leave, Doctor," Reeves urged. "Now. Whatever's happening here, it's bigger than just a few unusual animals." But as Maya started to push the stroller away from the vending machine, she found that the wheels would not turn. It was as if they had become magnetized to the ground. Dr. Reeves tried to help, but he too seemed to be moving through thick syrup, his movements slow and labored. "The field is strengthening," he gasped. "We're caught in it." The calls from the forest were getting closer, and Maya could see shapes moving through the trees. Not just bears now, but other animals as well. Deer, foxes, raccoons, even birds, all moving toward them with that same purposeful intelligence she had seen in the bear family. Lily's vocalizations became more urgent, and suddenly Maya understood. Her daughter was not just making random sounds, she was trying to communicate with the approaching animals, trying to tell them something important. "Lily," Maya whispered, kneeling beside the stroller, "what are you trying to say?" As if she had been waiting for that question, Lily's sounds changed completely. They became clearer, more structured, almost like words, but in no language Maya had ever heard. The effect on the approaching animals was immediate. They stopped moving forward and began to arrange themselves in a large circle around the vending machine, just as the bear family had done. Dr. Reeves watched in amazement, his scientific instruments forgotten. "She's talking to them," he breathed. "Your daughter's actually communicating with wild animals in their own language." But Maya was beginning to understand that it was not their language Lily was speaking. It was something else, something older and more fundamental. The stones were not just communication devices, they were teachers, somehow imparting knowledge and abilities that transcended the normal boundaries between species. The circle of animals was complete now, dozens of creatures of different species standing together in perfect harmony. At the center of it all, the 12 stones glowed brighter, their light pulsing in synchronization with the heartbeats of every living thing present. Lily reached out her small hands toward the nearest stone, and this time Maya did not stop her. As the baby's fingers made contact with the glowing surface, the entire world seemed to shift around them. Maya felt a rush of images and sensations that were not her own. The forest seen through the eyes of a bear, the sky from the perspective of a soaring eagle, the earth as felt by the roots of ancient trees. She was experiencing the world as the animals did, feeling their thoughts and emotions as if they were her own. In that moment of connection, Maya understood that this was not just about communication between species. The stones were facilitating something much more profound, a joining of consciousness, a sharing of experience that broke down the barriers between human and animal, between individual and collective awareness. But with that understanding came a terrible realization. If the stones could create this kind of connection, if they could enhance intelligence and facilitate communication across species barriers, then what Maya was witnessing was not just a local phenomenon. This was the beginning of something that could change the entire world. The question was whether that change would be a blessing or a catastrophe. As Maya looked around at the circle of enhanced animals, all watching her and Lily with eyes that held depths of intelligence she had never seen before, she realized that they were all waiting for something. They were waiting for her to make a choice that would determine not just her own future, but the future of every living thing on the planet. Dr. Reeves seemed to sense the weight of the moment as well. His instruments were now registering readings that defied every law of physics he knew. "Whatever's happening here," he said quietly, "it's not just local. I'm picking up similar energy signatures from locations all over the continent. This is happening everywhere." Maya's hands shook as she reached for Lily, but her daughter seemed perfectly calm, perfectly at peace in the center of this miraculous and terrifying convergence. The baby looked up at her mother with eyes that held ancient wisdom, and Maya knew that her 6-month-old daughter had somehow become the key to understanding something that could reshape the relationship between humanity and the natural world. The animals continued to wait, their circle unbroken, their attention focused entirely on the small family at the center of their gathering. The stones pulsed with increasing intensity, and Maya could feel power building in the air around them like an approaching storm. Something momentous was about to happen, something that would change everything. Maya could feel it in her bones, could see it in the expectant faces of the animals surrounding them. The question was whether she had the courage to let it unfold, or whether she should try to protect her daughter from whatever was coming next. As if sensing her mother's internal struggle, Lily made one more sound. A pure, clear note that seemed to hang in the air like a bell. In response, every animal in the circle made the same sound, their voices joining together in perfect harmony. The message was unmistakable. Whatever was about to happen, they were all in it together now. Human and animal, mother and child, scientist and subject. They had all become part of something larger than themselves, something that would require trust and courage from all of them if they were going to survive what came next. The harmonious note faded into silence, but the energy in the air continued to build. Maya could feel it crackling around them like electricity before a thunderstorm. The stones were now glowing so brightly that they cast visible shadows in the growing dusk, and the electromagnetic readings on Dr. Reeves' device were climbing to levels that should have been impossible. Then, without warning, the youngest bear cub, the one Maya had helped free from the vending machine, stepped forward from the circle. Its movements were deliberate, almost ceremonial, as it approached Maya and Lily. But there was something different about the cub now. Its eyes held a depth of intelligence that was startling, and when it looked at Maya, she felt as if it was seeing directly into her soul. The cub stopped just inches from the stroller and began to make a series of complex sounds. These were not the simple chirps and whimpers Maya had heard earlier. These were structured, purposeful vocalizations that sounded almost like speech. Lily responded immediately, her own sounds matching the cub's in rhythm and tone. Dr. Reeves fumbled with the recording device, his hands shaking with excitement. "This is incredible," he whispered. "They're having a conversation, an actual conversation." Maya watched in amazement as her 6-month-old daughter and the young bear cub continued their exchange. The sounds they made were unlike anything she had ever heard, musical and complex, with subtle variations in pitch and rhythm that clearly carried meaning. It was as if they were discussing something important, something that required careful consideration. As their conversation continued, Maya began to notice changes in the other animals. The deer in the circle were lifting their heads, their ears twitching as if they were listening to sounds beyond human hearing. The raccoons were making soft, chittering noises, and even the birds perched in the nearby trees seemed to be participating in some kind of dialogue. "Dr. Reeves," Maya said quietly. "What's happening to them?" The scientist looked up from his instruments, his face pale with wonder and fear. "I think they're networking," he said. "The stones seem to be facilitating some kind of collective consciousness. They're all connected now, sharing information across species boundaries." Maya felt a chill run down her spine. "Connected how?" "I'm not entirely sure, Doctor," Reeves admitted. "But the electromagnetic signatures suggest that their brainwaves are synchronizing. It's as if they're becoming part of a larger mind, a collective intelligence that encompasses all the species present." As if to confirm his words, all the animals in the circle suddenly turned their heads in the same direction, looking toward a section of forest that appeared empty to Maya's eyes. Their movements were perfectly synchronized, like a flock of birds turning as one. Lily's vocalizations became more urgent, and Maya could see her daughter straining to look in the same direction as the animals. Following their gaze, Maya squinted into the darkening forest, trying to see what had captured their attention. At first, there was nothing. Then slowly, Maya began to make out a shape moving between the trees. It was tall and upright, walking on two legs like a human, but there was something wrong with its proportions. Its arms were too long, its shoulders too broad, and it moved with a fluid grace that no human could match. Dr. Reeves saw it too, and his recording device slipped from his trembling hands. "That's impossible," he breathed. "The thermal signatures don't match any known species." The figure continued to approach, moving with deliberate slowness as if it didn't want to frighten anyone. As it drew closer, Maya could see that it was covered in fur, but the fur was unlike anything she had seen before. It seemed to shimmer and change color depending on the angle of the light, shifting from brown to gray to almost silver. The animals in the circle showed no fear of the approaching figure. If anything, they seemed to be welcoming it, their postures relaxed and expectant. The bear cub that had been talking with Lily made a series of sounds that seemed almost like an introduction. When the figure finally stepped into the clearing around the vending machine, Maya gasped. It was definitely not human, but it wasn't quite like any animal she had ever seen either. It stood about 7 feet tall, with the general body shape of a human, but covered entirely in the color-shifting fur. Its face was a blend of human and animal features: intelligent eyes, a broad nose, and a mouth that looked capable of both human speech and animal sounds. Dr. Reeves was frantically taking readings with his instruments, but Maya could see that his hands were shaking so badly he could barely hold them steady. "The electromagnetic field around that creature is off the charts," he whispered. "It's like it's generating its own energy signature." The creature looked directly at Maya, and she felt that same sense of being seen completely, understood deeply, that she had experienced with the bear cub. But this was more intense, more overwhelming. She felt as if the creature was reading not just her thoughts, but her entire life history, her hopes and fears, her love for Lily, and her terror at what was happening around them. Then the creature spoke, and Maya's world tilted on its axis. "Maya Chen," it said, its voice a perfect blend of human speech and animal vocalizations. "We have been waiting for you." Maya's legs gave out, and she sank to her knees beside Lily's stroller. The creature knew her name. Not only that, but it had been expecting her. This wasn't a random encounter. It was a planned meeting. "Who are you?" she managed to whisper. The creature moved closer, its movements flowing like water. "I am what your daughter will become, if she chooses to accept the gift the stones offer. I am the next step in the evolution of consciousness, the bridge between human and animal, between individual and collective awareness." Dr. Reeves stepped forward, his scientific curiosity overriding his fear. "Are you saying that the stones are causing evolutionary changes? That they're altering human genetics?" The creature turned its attention to the scientist, and Maya saw Dr. Reeves flinch under that penetrating gaze. "Not genetics," the creature replied. "Consciousness. The stones are teachers, left by those who came before. They show us how to transcend the boundaries that separate us from our animal brothers and sisters, how to become part of the greater mind that connects all living things." Maya looked down at Lily, who was listening to this conversation with rapt attention, her small hands reaching toward the creature with obvious delight. Her daughter was not afraid. If anything, she seemed to recognize the creature, as if she had been waiting for this meeting too. "Those who came before?" Maya asked. "Who were they?" The creature's expression, what Maya could see of it behind the fur and altered features, became sad. They were like us once. Humans who learned to bridge the gap between species, who discovered how to become part of something larger than themselves. But they were not ready for the responsibility that came with such power. They used their abilities to dominate rather than to unite, and eventually they destroyed themselves. Dr. Reeves was recording everything now, his instruments capturing both the conversation and the electromagnetic signatures surrounding the creature. How long ago did this happen? Time moves differently when you are part of the collective consciousness, the creature replied. But in your terms, it was many thousands of years ago, long enough for the stones to be scattered and lost, for the knowledge to fade into legend and myth. Maya felt a growing sense of dread. And now the stones are active again. Why? The creature looked around the circle of animals, all of whom were listening intently to the conversation. Because the need is great. Your species has reached a critical point in its development. You have the power to destroy not just yourselves, but all life on this planet. The stones are awakening because it is time for a new evolution, a new way of being that will allow all species to survive and thrive together. But you said the previous civilization destroyed itself, Maya pointed out. What makes you think this time will be different? The creature's gaze returned to Lily, and Maya saw something like hope in those alien eyes. Because this time, the change is beginning with the innocent. Your daughter and others like her, born into a world where the barriers between species are already breaking down. They will not make the same mistakes as those who came before. Lily made a soft sound, and the creature responded with a complex series of vocalizations that seemed to carry deep meaning. Maya watched her daughter's face light up with understanding and joy, and she realized that Lily was already more connected to this new form of consciousness than she was to her human parents. "What does that mean for us?" Dr. Reeves asked. "For humanity as a whole?" The creature was quiet for a long moment, its head tilted as if it was listening to voices Maya could not hear. "That depends on the choices you make in the coming days," it finally said. "The stones are awakening all over the world. Others like your daughter are being born every day, children who can bridge the gap between human and animal consciousness. But there are also those who will fear this change, who will try to stop it or control it for their own purposes." Maya felt a surge of protective fear. "Are you saying Lily is in danger?" "All of us are in danger," the creature replied. "The transition will not be easy. There will be those who see the awakening animals and enhanced children as threats to human dominance. There will be governments and corporations that will want to capture and study them, to weaponize their abilities. The next few years will determine whether this evolution leads to a new golden age of cooperation between species, or to a war that destroys everything." Dr. Reeves looked up from his instruments with growing alarm. "I'm detecting more energy signatures approaching from multiple directions. Whatever's happening here, it's attracted attention." The creature nodded grimly. "They come quickly now, those who seek to control rather than understand. You must decide, Maya Chen. Will you trust in the process and allow your daughter to become what she is meant to be? Or will you try to keep her human and risk losing everything that makes this transformation possible?" Maya looked down at Lily, who was watching her with those wise, ancient eyes. Her daughter had already changed so much in just these few hours. The musical vocalizations, the ability to communicate with animals, the way she seemed to understand things that were far beyond a 6-month-old's comprehension. Lily was already becoming something more than human. But was that necessarily a bad thing? Maya thought about the harmony she had witnessed between her daughter and the animals, the sense of connection and understanding that had flowed between all the different species. If this was the direction evolution was taking, if this was how humanity could learn to live in balance with the natural world, then maybe it was not something to be feared. The sound of vehicles approaching through the park broke into her thoughts. Multiple engines, moving fast, accompanied by the static of radio communications. Dr. Reeves was right. They had attracted attention, and it was coming in force. Government? Maya asked. The creature's expression darkened. Worse. There are private organizations that have been tracking the stone activity for years, waiting for a moment like this. They see the potential for power and profit in what is happening here, and they will not hesitate to take whatever they need to achieve their goals. The first vehicle appeared at the edge of the park, a black SUV with tinted windows, followed quickly by two more. They moved with military precision, positioning themselves to block all the exit routes. Maya could see figures in dark tactical gear emerging from the vehicles, carrying equipment that looked far more sophisticated than anything law enforcement would use. The animals in the circle began to grow restless, their peaceful assembly fracturing as they sensed the approaching threat. Some of the smaller creatures, the raccoons and foxes, began to slip away into the forest, but the larger animals, particularly the bears, held their ground, their postures becoming defensive. Lily began to cry for the first time since the entire encounter had begun, her musical vocalizations replaced by the harsh wails of a frightened infant. The sound seemed to cut through Maya like a knife, reminding her that no matter how special her daughter might be, she was still just a baby who needed her mother's protection. "I have to get her out of here," Maya said, starting to push the stroller away from the vending machine. But the creature stepped into her path, its expression urgent. "If you run now, they will catch you, and once they have your daughter, you will never see her again. They will study her, experiment on her, try to replicate her abilities for their own purposes." Dr. Reeves looked up from his instruments with growing panic. The electromagnetic readings are spiking again. Something big is about to happen. The stones around the vending machine were pulsing faster now, their light growing so bright that it was painful to look at directly. The remaining animals in the circle were all making sounds. Not the harmonious chorus from before, but urgent warning calls that spoke of immediate danger. More vehicles were arriving, and Maya could see that they were being surrounded. Some of the figures in tactical gear were setting up equipment that looked like it was designed to contain rather than capture. They were preparing for something that went far beyond a simple arrest. The creature looked directly at Maya, its alien features conveying desperate urgency. "Choose now, Maya Chen. Trust in the process, and let your daughter become what she needs to be, or watch as everything we have worked toward is destroyed." Lily's cries were becoming more intense, but underneath the wailing, Maya could hear something else. Those musical sounds her daughter had been making, but different now, more complex and urgent. It was as if Lily was trying to tell her something critically important. The tactical teams were moving closer, their equipment generating electromagnetic fields that were interfering with the stone's energy patterns. Maya could see the effect on the animals. They were becoming agitated, confused, as if their newfound connection was being disrupted. Dr. Reeves grabbed Maya's arm. "We need to make a decision now," he urged. "Whatever we're going to do, we have to do it before they get close enough to deploy whatever technology they're using." Maya looked around at the chaos beginning to unfold around them. The frightened animals, the approaching tactical teams, the creature that claimed to represent humanity's evolutionary future, and her daughter, who seemed to be at the center of it all. The weight of the choice before her was overwhelming. She was being asked to decide not just her own fate, but potentially the fate of human evolution itself. And she had perhaps 30 seconds to make that choice before it was taken away from her entirely. Maya's heart hammered against her ribs as she looked down at Lily, whose cries had suddenly stopped. The baby was staring directly at her mother with those impossibly wise eyes, and in that moment Maya felt something shift inside her mind. It was as if a door had opened, allowing her to sense what Lily was feeling, what she was trying to communicate. The sensation was overwhelming. Maya could suddenly perceive the world through her daughter's enhanced awareness. The electromagnetic pulses from the stones felt like music. The emotions of the surrounding animals flowed through her consciousness like colored light, and the approaching tactical teams registered as harsh, discordant notes that threatened to shatter the harmony of the moment. "She's connecting with you," the creature said, its voice filled with wonder. "Your daughter is trying to show you what she sees, what she understands about what's happening here." Through this new perception, Maya could sense the intentions of the approaching forces. They weren't just planning to capture and study Lily. They wanted to harvest whatever made her special, to create weapons and tools from her abilities. The knowledge hit Maya like a physical blow, and she knew with absolute certainty that if these people got their hands on her daughter, Lily would never be seen again. But there was something else coming through the connection, something that made Maya's breath catch. Lily wasn't afraid, despite being just 6 months old. Despite the chaos and danger surrounding them, her daughter was filled with a deep, unshakable calm. More than that, she was eager to embrace whatever transformation awaited her, eager to become part of something larger than herself. Dr. Reeves suddenly grabbed Maya's shoulder, his instruments beeping frantically. The stone energy is building to critical levels. If they deploy whatever suppression technology they're carrying, the feedback could kill everyone in the immediate area, including your daughter. The tactical teams were less than 50 yards away now, their containment equipment creating visible distortions in the air around them. Maya could see that they were wearing some kind of protective gear, probably designed to shield them from the electromagnetic effects of the stones. They knew exactly what they were dealing with, which meant they had been preparing for this moment for a long time. The creature stepped closer to Maya, its voice urgent but calm. "There is another way, but it requires complete trust. The stones can transport consciousness across vast distances, allow beings to exist in multiple locations simultaneously. If your daughter undergoes the transformation now, she can escape their reach entirely, but she will no longer be entirely human." Maya felt tears streaming down her face as she looked at Lily. Her daughter was so small, so vulnerable, and yet she held the key to humanity's future in her tiny hands. The choice Maya was being asked to make seemed impossible. Risk losing her daughter forever to some unknown transformation, or watch her be captured and destroyed by people who saw her only as a resource to be exploited. Then Lily reached up and touched Maya's face with one small hand, and the connection between them deepened. Suddenly, Maya could see flashes of possible futures, some bright with promise, others dark with the consequences of fear and hatred. In the bright futures, she saw Lily grown into something beautiful and powerful, helping to heal the rift between humanity and the natural world. In the dark ones, she saw her daughter trapped in laboratory cages, her abilities twisted into instruments of control and domination. The choice became clear. "Do it," Maya whispered to the creature. "Save her." The moment the words left her lips, everything changed. The stones around the vending machine erupted in brilliant light, so intense that Maya had to close her eyes. When she opened them again, the world had transformed. The tactical teams had stopped advancing, their equipment sparking and smoking as the electromagnetic pulse from the stones overloaded their systems. Several of the men were on their knees, clutching their heads as if in pain. Their containment technology lay in ruins around them, useless against the power they had tried to suppress. But the most dramatic change was in Lily herself. The baby was still in her stroller, still recognizably Maya's daughter, but there was something fundamentally different about her now. Her eyes held depths of knowledge that seemed to span centuries, and when she moved, it was with a fluid grace that reminded Maya of the creature that had spoken to them. More than that, Maya could see that Lily was no longer entirely present in one location. There were ghostly images of her daughter flickering in and out of existence around the clearing. Multiple versions of Lily existing simultaneously in different places and times. Some looked older, some younger, but all were connected to the baby in the stroller by threads of light that only Maya seemed able to perceive. "The transformation is complete," the creature said, its voice filled with relief and awe. "Your daughter now exists partially outside of linear time and space. They cannot capture what they cannot fully locate." Dr. Reeves was staring at his instruments in disbelief. "The readings are impossible. It's as if she's existing in multiple quantum states simultaneously. How is that even possible?" The creature turned to face the recovering tactical teams, its posture becoming protective. "The stones do not just facilitate communication between species. They allow consciousness to transcend the normal limitations of physical existence. Those who master their use can exist in multiple realities at once, drawing on knowledge and experience from across time and space." Maya knelt beside Lily's stroller, tears of relief streaming down her face. Her daughter was safe, but she was also changed in ways Maya was only beginning to understand. When she reached out to touch Lily's hand, she felt the same electrical connection as before, but stronger now, more complex. Through the connection, Maya could sense that Lily was experiencing the world from multiple perspectives simultaneously. She was still the baby in the stroller, but she was also somehow present with other enhanced children around the world, sharing knowledge and experiences across vast distances. She was part of a growing network of consciousness that spanned the globe. The tactical teams were regrouping, their leader speaking urgently into a radio. Maya could hear fragments of his transmission. Something about unprecedented electromagnetic interference and requiring immediate backup with enhanced containment protocols. "They'll be back, Doctor," Reeves warned. "And next time, they'll come prepared for what they've seen here." The creature nodded grimly. "Which is why you cannot stay. The network your daughter is now part of spans the entire world, but there are safe havens, places where the transformed can exist without fear of capture or exploitation." Maya felt a stab of fear. "Are you saying we have to leave everything behind? Our home? Our life?" "Your old life ended the moment you chose to save your daughter," the creature replied gently. "But the new life that awaits you is richer and more fulfilling than anything you can imagine. You will be part of a community that transcends the boundaries of species, nationality, and even individual consciousness." As if to demonstrate this point, the animals that had remained in the circle began to move closer, but their movements were different now, more purposeful, more coordinated. Maya realized that they too had been transformed by the stone energy, enhanced beyond their natural capabilities. The bear cub that Maya had originally rescued approached the stroller and made a series of complex vocalizations. Lily responded immediately, her sounds now carrying the same sophisticated patterns Maya had heard from the creature. They were having a conversation, sharing information that was beyond Maya's ability to understand. "What are they talking about?" she asked. Dr. Reeves, who had been recording everything, looked up from his instruments. "I think they're discussing strategy. The enhanced animals are forming some kind of intelligence network, sharing information about safe routes and potential threats." The creature confirmed this with a nod. "The transformation affects all conscious beings within the stone's influence. The animals you see here are now capable of complex planning and communication. They will help ensure your daughter's safety as she grows into her new abilities." Maya looked around at the circle of animals, seeing them with new eyes. The deer were no longer simple prey animals. Their alert postures and intelligent gazes marked them as sentries, watching for danger. The raccoons had arranged themselves at strategic points around the clearing, their nimble paws working with tools they had gathered from the surrounding area. Even the birds in the nearby trees seemed to be organized into some kind of aerial reconnaissance system. But the most remarkable change was in the bear family. The mother bear approached Maya directly, her massive form moving with careful deliberation. When she was close enough, she lowered her great head and made a sound that was unmistakably a greeting, a recognition of Maya's role in saving her cub. Maya reached out tentatively and touched the bear's snout, feeling the same electrical connection she shared with Lily. Suddenly, she could sense the bear's thoughts and emotions: gratitude for her cub's rescue, protective instincts toward the transformed children, and a deep understanding of the larger changes taking place in the world. "She's thanking you," the creature translated, though Maya had already understood the bear's message through their brief connection. "And she's offering her protection for your daughter's journey." The sound of approaching helicopters interrupted the moment. Maya looked up to see military aircraft circling overhead, their searchlights cutting through the gathering darkness. The tactical teams on the ground were coordinating with the air support, preparing for a much more aggressive approach. "Time to go," Dr. Reeves urged, gathering his equipment. "Whatever sanctuary you're talking about, we need to reach it before they can establish a full perimeter." The creature gestured toward the forest, where Maya could now see pathways of light extending between the trees, roots that were somehow illuminated for her enhanced perception. "The network will guide you. Follow the light paths, and they will lead you to safety." Maya hesitated, looking back toward the park entrance where her car was parked. Everything she owned, everyone she knew, was in the direction opposite from where the creature was pointing. To follow the light paths meant leaving behind not just her possessions, but her entire identity as Maya Chen, ordinary human being. Lily made a soft sound, and Maya felt her daughter's consciousness touch her mind again. This time, the message was clear and unmistakable. They were going on an adventure together, and everything would be all right. Maya took a deep breath and began pushing the stroller toward the forest. As they moved, the animals fell into formation around them, the bears taking point and rearguard positions, the deer flanking them as scouts, the smaller animals spreading out to provide early warning of any threats. Dr. Reeves hurried to keep up, his instrument still registering impossible readings. "This is the most significant evolutionary event in human history," he panted as they walked. "The implications are staggering. If your daughter and others like her can really exist in multiple quantum states, if they can communicate across species barriers and share consciousness over vast distances, then everything we thought we knew about the nature of reality is wrong." The creature, who had been leading their group, turned back to address the scientist. "Not wrong," it corrected. "Incomplete. Your species has been limited by its dependence on individual consciousness, its inability to perceive the connections that bind all living things together. The stones are simply revealing what was always there." As they moved deeper into the forest, Maya began to notice other travelers on the light paths. Some were human, adults carrying enhanced children, scientists and researchers who had been drawn into the phenomenon, even military personnel who had apparently defected from their units to protect the transformed. But others were not human at all, enhanced animals from various species, all moving with the same purposeful intelligence she had seen in the bear family. "How many are there?" Maya asked, amazed by the diversity of the procession moving through the forest. Thousands worldwide, the creature replied. The awakening is accelerating. Every day brings new transformations, new connections to the network. But it also brings new dangers, as those who fear change seek to stop what they cannot control. They paused at a clearing where several light paths converged, and Maya got her first clear view of the scope of what was happening. The forest was alive with streams of refugees, humans and animals moving together in organized groups, all following the same ethereal pathways toward some distant destination. In the center of the clearing stood another arrangement of stones, similar to the ones they had left behind, but larger and more complex. These stones were not just glowing, they were singing, producing harmonious tones that seemed to coordinate the movements of all the travelers passing through the area. Lily responded to the stone song immediately, her own vocalizations joining the chorus. Maya watched in wonder as her daughter's sounds seemed to be picked up and amplified by the stones, then transmitted to other stone sites across the network. Lily was communicating with enhanced children she had never met, sharing experiences and knowledge across vast distances. "She's learning," Dr. Reeves observed, his instruments detecting the information exchange. "The network is teaching her, downloading knowledge and abilities that would normally take years to develop." Maya felt a moment of mourning for the normal childhood her daughter would never have. Lily would never take her first steps in the traditional sense, never babble meaningless sounds as most babies did, never experience the simple innocence of not understanding the complexities of the world around her. But as she watched her daughter's face light up with joy and wonder as she communicated with others across the network, Maya realized that what Lily was gaining was far more valuable than what she was losing. Her daughter was becoming part of something magnificent, something that could heal the deep wounds between humanity and the natural world. The sound of distant explosions interrupted Maya's thoughts. Looking back toward the park, she could see flashes of light and columns of smoke rising into the night sky. The military forces were apparently attempting to destroy the stone site they had left behind, not realizing that the network was far too vast and interconnected to be stopped by such crude methods. "They're afraid," the creature explained, following Maya's gaze. "Fear makes people do destructive things, even when those actions ultimately harm themselves. The stones cannot be destroyed by conventional weapons. They exist partially outside normal space-time. All they're accomplishing is to drive the awakened further underground." As if summoned by the distant violence, more enhanced animals began emerging from the forest around them. Maya saw wolves with silver fur that seemed to shimmer with inner light, eagles whose eyes held depths of ancient wisdom, and even smaller creatures like squirrels and chipmunks that moved with obvious intelligence and purpose. All of them were converging on the clearing, drawn by the same light paths that had guided Maya and her companions. But they weren't fleeing in panic. They were organizing, forming what looked like an army of enhanced beings preparing to defend their territory. "It's starting, Doctor," Reeves whispered, his face pale with understanding. "The war between the old world and the new, between those who embrace the transformation and those who fear it." Maya pulled Lily's stroller closer, her maternal instincts flaring with protective urgency. Her daughter had become the center of a conflict that could reshape the entire world, and Maya was just beginning to understand the magnitude of the responsibility that came with that role. The creature placed a reassuring hand on Maya's shoulder. "Do not fear," it said. "Your daughter is not alone in this. The network protects its own, and the awakened are far more powerful than those who seek to destroy them realize." As if to prove this point, the stones in the clearing began to pulse with increasing intensity, their song growing louder and more complex. In response, every enhanced being in the clearing, human and animal alike, began to vocalize in harmony, their combined voices creating a sound that seemed to shake the very foundations of reality. Maya felt the power of that collective voice resonating in her bones, and she understood that she was witnessing the birth of something entirely new, not just an evolutionary step for humanity, but the emergence of a truly unified consciousness that encompassed all life on Earth. The question was whether the old world would allow this new one to be born, or whether the conflict ahead would consume everything in its path. Maya held her breath as the harmonious voices of the enhanced beings reached a crescendo that seemed to pierce the very fabric of reality. The stones in the clearing pulsed with such intensity that the light became visible for miles around, a beacon that could be seen from space itself. But instead of the violent confrontation she had expected, something miraculous began to happen. The sound waves from their collective song were traveling outward, carried by the network of stones across the entire planet. Maya could sense through her connection with Lily that similar gatherings were occurring everywhere, in forests and mountains, in hidden valleys and remote islands. Millions of enhanced beings, both human and animal, were adding their voices to the same song. Dr. Reeves stared at his instruments in amazement. "The electromagnetic patterns are synchronizing globally," he whispered. "Every stone site on Earth is resonating at the same frequency. It's like the entire planet is becoming one massive communication network." The creature's face was filled with wonder as it listened to the growing chorus. "This is what the ancient civilization failed to achieve," it said softly. "They tried to dominate the network, to use it for power over others. But your daughter's generation understands something deeper, that true strength comes from unity, not control." Maya looked down at Lily, who was glowing with the same soft light as the stones around them. Her daughter's consciousness was expanding, touching minds across the world, sharing the simple truth that had started this entire journey, that love and compassion could bridge any gap, even the one between species. Through their connection, Maya felt Lily's awareness reaching out to the military forces that were approaching their location. But, instead of fear or anger, her daughter was projecting pure, innocent love, the same emotion she had shown when she first touched the trapped bear cub's paw. The effect was immediate and profound. The helicopters circling overhead began to land, their crews emerging not with weapons, but with expressions of wonder and confusion. The tactical teams that had been advancing through the forest stopped in their tracks, their aggressive postures melting away as they were touched by the wave of unconditional love emanating from the network. Maya watched in amazement as soldiers began to remove their helmets and weapons, their faces soft with tears they couldn't explain. The technology they had brought to suppress the enhanced beings was powering down on its own, rendered useless by operators who no longer had the will to use it. "She's not fighting them," Maya realized. "She's healing them." The creature nodded, its eyes shining with pride. "Your daughter understands what we all forgot, that there are no enemies, only beings who have forgotten how to love. The network doesn't need to defeat the old world. It simply needs to remind it of what it means to be connected to all life." As the song continued to spread across the planet, Maya could sense the changes taking place everywhere. In cities around the world, people were stepping out of their homes and offices, drawn by a sound they felt in their hearts rather than heard with their ears. Natural barriers between humans and animals were dissolving as both species recognized their fundamental kinship. The bear cub that Maya had rescued hours earlier approached the stroller one final time. It looked up at Lily with eyes that now held the wisdom of ages and made a sound that needed no translation. It was saying goodbye, but also promising that they would meet again in the new world that was being born. Maya knelt down and gently touched the cub's head, feeling the electric connection that now linked all consciousness on Earth. "Thank you," she whispered, "for showing us the way." The cub nuzzled her hand once more, then rejoined its family as they began to move deeper into the forest. But Maya understood now that they weren't really leaving. Through the network, they would always be connected, always be part of the same vast consciousness that was transforming the world. Dr. Reeves had stopped taking readings and was simply standing in wonder, watching as enhanced animals and humans worked together to help the former military personnel understand what was happening. There was no conflict, no violence, just the gradual awakening of beings who were remembering their true nature. The old world isn't ending, Maya realized suddenly. It's just remembering how to be whole. The creature smiled, and Maya could see in its expression both the being it had been and the human it had once been, unified at last. "Your daughter has given us all a gift," it said. "She has shown us that evolution doesn't have to be about survival of the fittest. It can be about the survival of the most loving." As the first light of dawn began to filter through the forest canopy, Maya saw that the world around them had transformed completely. The harsh boundaries between species, between individual consciousnesses, between the natural and human worlds, had all dissolved into something beautiful and harmonious. Lily gurgled happily in her stroller, her small hands reaching up toward the morning light. But she was no longer reaching alone. Countless other hands, paws, wings, and hearts were reaching with her, all connected by the invisible threads of love that the stones had helped them remember. Maya picked up her daughter and held her close, feeling the full weight and wonder of what they had all become. They were no longer separate beings struggling against each other for survival. They were part of something magnificent, a living network of consciousness that spanned the entire planet, united by the simple truth that love was the most powerful force in the universe. As the sun rose fully above the trees, illuminating a world where humans and animals lived as equals, where consciousness flowed freely between all living beings, and where a baby's innocent compassion had changed everything, Maya whispered a single word that somehow contained all the gratitude and wonder in her heart. Home. And in that moment, she knew that wherever this new journey might take them, they would never be lost again. Because home wasn't a place. It was the connection between all living things, and they had finally found their way back to it. The old vending machine, now silent and forgotten, stood as a monument to the moment when everything changed. When a mother's love, a baby's innocence, and a bear cub's trust had opened a doorway to a world where differences were celebrated rather than feared, where every voice added to the harmony of existence, and where love truly did conquer all. And in the growing light of the new dawn, the network continued to expand, carrying the message to every corner of the earth. We are all connected. We are all one. We are all home.